I said get up. You don't belong here.
Say that again.
Get out. You don't belong. The words cracked through the cabin like a slap of thunder. Every head turned. Somewhere above, the air conditioning hummed on cue, a cold applause for the insult that had just landed. Nicole Harris, the flight attendant, stood rigid by seat 2, a chin lifted, finger pointed like a prosecutor delivering a verdict. Across from her sat Marcus Carter. Plain black t-shirt, dark jeans. No watch, no label, no apology. He didn't move. The calm in his posture felt louder than her voice. Captain Pierce appeared from the cockpit, arms crossed, expression carved from stone. Behind him, 2 security officers filled the aisle, hands resting near their belts. Farther back, a woman raised her phone. The small red light blinked to life, catching everything. Nicole leaned closer. I said, "Move to economy. This cabin is for first-class passengers." Marcus didn't even blink. "I am in first class." His tone didn't climb, it dropped. Steady, deliberate, the kind of voice that made silence lean in. She snatched the boarding pass from the armrest, eyes flicking once before the paper tore down the center. "Not anymore!" The rip echoed like fabric under stress. One passenger gasped. Another whispered, "Did she just—" Captain Pierce's voice came flat and official. "Sir, cooperate before this becomes an incident." Marcus looked up at him, unhurried. "An incident has already started. You just walked into it." Nicole's jaw tightened. "Don't play smart, we have protocols." "And yet," Marcus said softly, "you skipped the one about respect." The woman with the phone, Emma, seat 3. B shifted, filming sideways. Her lens caught the trembling between authority and arrogance. The tension became visible, like heat above asphalt. Pierce gestured to the officers. "Escort him off." Marcus didn't rise. He glanced down at his watchless wrist, then toward the cabin door. 30 minutes until takeoff, 30 minutes until the truth. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change. And we're glad you're here. Now back to Marcus. Nicole snapped again, louder this time. "Stand up!" Marcus inhaled once, eyes steady on the aisle, light reflecting off the torn boarding pass at his feet. The paper looked like evidence. The cabin wasn't quiet anymore. It was charged, trembling with the sound of judgment preparing to collapse. He spoke once more, low enough for only those nearest to hear. "You'll regret how calm I stayed." Then he folded his hands, waiting, because justice, like any delayed flight, always arrives eventually. 30 seconds after Nicole's voice split the cabin, everything looked normal again, but nothing felt normal. The hum of the jet engines below carried a new kind of rhythm, the kind that follows an insult no one has yet apologized for. Marcus Carter sat in 2A, eyes forward, body still. Calm wasn't weakness, it was calculation. To anyone else, he was a man quietly refusing to move. But inside that quiet, something sharper stirred a checklist of power he'd spent 2 decades building. He wasn't flying for comfort, he was flying for proof. Horizon Airlines had received dozens of anonymous complaints passengers, downgraded, humiliated, randomly reassigned from first class for security reasons. The board ignored them, so Marcus, co-founder and 25% owner, came to see it himself. No suit, no entourage, no hint of who he was. Only a ticket, a seat, and silence. Nicole walked past again, posture stiff. "Don't make me call security twice." He didn't look up, you already did. Bueno Fries and the Larbos. Behind her, the younger attendant, Brian, smirked as he poured champagne for a white couple now settling into seat 2B, the one meant for Marcus's guest. He leaned close to Nicole and whispered, "Guess he thought this was open seating." They both laughed, quiet but sharp. Marcus turned his head slightly, catching their reflection in the window. Same pattern, different faces. Every year, a new version of disbelief is wrapped in a uniform. He remembered another morning 25 years old, first job interview at a regional airline. The manager shook his hand, looked at his Robin, then said, "You don't quite fit our image." That phrase never left him. It became the engine that built his empire. And now, it has followed him to seat 2A. Captain Pierce returned, voice colder than the air conditioning. "Sir, we can resolve this quietly. You can either move to economy or D-board. Your choice." Marcus looked at him. "You sure it's my choice?" Pierce hesitated. That pause, the first crack in protocol, hung between them. From 2 rows back, a passenger whispered, "He's not doing anything." Another replied, "Doesn't matter. They've decided." Phones lifted. Small red lights dotted the aisle like fireflies of resistance. Marcus adjusted the cuff of his sleeve. "You're escalating a mistake," he said. "One that's being recorded from 4 different angles." Nicole's lips tightened. "Empty threats." "One?" Marcus' gaze sharpened. "Truth isn't a threat." The trainee attendant, Mia, hovered in the galley, clutching her tablet. She had seen his ticket scan green, but fear glued her in place. For now, Emma, the woman with the phone, leaned into the aisle. "Why won't you just check the system?" Nicole turned, voice clipped. "Ma'am, please stay seated." Emma didn't. "No, please. Check it. He showed you everything." Captain Pierce sighed, rubbing his temple like justice was an inconvenience. "Moem, this is procedure." Marcus almost smiled. Procedure, the favorite word of the guilty. He exhaled, quiet and centered. 30 minutes. He had said it once, and he meant it. In 30 minutes, the truth would land harder than any aircraft. Behind his calm, his phone vibrated once. A message flashed from Rachel Harris, EA Summit Group. "All systems ready. Standing by for signals." Marcus placed the phone face down on the armrest, eyes still steady ahead. The passengers around him watched, some angry, some afraid, but most unsure which side of the story they were part of. The silence that followed wasn't peace. It was the sound of power preparing to turn. The air in first class had changed texture thin, electric, like static waiting to spark. The scent of citrus cleaner clung to every surface, too bright, too fake, like the smiles that came with it. Nicole's heels struck the aisle again, each step a reminder that control, for her, was performance. She stopped beside Marcus. "Last chance," she said, tone clipped and rehearsed. "You either move, or I make the call." Marcus didn't answer right away. He traced the seam of his armrest with one finger, then looked up. "You already made it." Brian, the younger flight attendant, leaned against the galley wall. "He's stalling!" People like this love the drama. His grin was a little too wide, a little too sure. Marcus turned his head slightly. "Define people like this." Brian blinked. "You know what I mean." "No," Marcus said, his voice almost kind. "I want to hear you say it." The pause stretched. No one spoke. Somewhere in the back, a soda can hissed open, a sharp, metallic sound, slicing the tension. Captain Pierce appeared again, posture stiff, face pale from the effort of staying neutral. "Sir, you're interfering with boarding procedures." "I were called spaders." Emma, still filming, cut in. He's sitting quietly in his assigned seat. "The only interference is yours." Nicole snapped, "Ma'am, if you keep recording, you'll be removed too." Emma didn't flinch. "Then I'll have company." Passengers shifted, uneasy. A man in row 4 whispered, "She's right." Another muttered, "Just let the man fly." But the tide wasn't ready to turn, not yet. Nicole took a breath through her nose, exhaled through a smile. "Sir, show me your ID again." "One." Marcus handed it over, steady. "Illinois license?" "Perfectly valid." She glanced once and said, "Could be fake." Emma's camera caught that line. The lens trembled slightly in her hand. Mia, the trainee in the back, felt her stomach twist. She had seen the system flash green when he scanned in. She knew the seat was real. Her finger hovered over her phone's record button, then pressed it voice memo, silent. The truth had to start somewhere. Nicole turned to Brian. "Bring security back." "Wine, wine." Brian nodded and disappeared down the aisle. Marcus leaned back, eyes closing briefly. He could almost hear the click of dominoes. The pattern never changed. First the insult, then the assumption, then the escalation dressed as protocol. Every time, the same choreography. He opened his eyes. "You ever wonder," he asked quietly, "how many times this scene has played out in other uniforms?" Nicole frowned. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Marcus said different badges. Same story. Wykes, more juror. Pierce shifted enough. His tone cracked like old wood. "You're causing a disruption." "No," Marcus said, still seated. "I'm revealing one." The engines outside began to whir louder, a low growl that made every word feel heavier. Mia stepped forward, voice trembling. "Captain, I saw his scan. It was valid. Seat 2A. Nicole whipped around. "Mia, stay out of this." "I can't," she said. "Not when it's wrong." The cabin froze. Passengers looked between them like watching a verdict form midair. Nicole's voice dropped. "You're done talking." Mia swallowed hard. "Then you're done hiding." Marcus turned slightly, meeting Mia's eyes for the first time. A nod, small enough. The moment cracked open. It was no longer one man against a system. It was the system against its own conscience. In the back, Brian reappeared with 2 security officers. Their badges gleamed under the cabin lights. Marcus straightened in his seat, voice low but carrying. "Be careful with your next move. You're not escorting a passenger. You're walking into a lesson." And for the first time, Pierce didn't answer. Because deep down, even he wasn't sure who still held authority on that plane. The door to the jet bridge opened again, spilling a rush of terminal air into the cabin dry, recycled, heavy with the smell of coffee and impatience. 2 airport security officers stepped in, their radios crackling like insects trapped in glass. The sight made the aisle shrink, passengers stiffened, eyes darting between uniforms and injustice. Nicole smiled like she just won. "Gentlemen, this passenger refuses to comply." Marcus didn't turn refuse, he murmured. "Isn't the same as resist." The taller officer, Linda, glanced at him, then at Nicole. "What's the issue?" "He's in a first-class seat that isn't his," Nicole said. "He presented fake documents." Mia spoke up before she could stop herself. "That's not true." Her voice trembled but didn't break. His scan was green. "I saw it myself." Nicole's head snapped around. "Mia, you're dismissed." But no one moved to escort her. The passengers were watching too closely now. Every phone camera blinked like small red warnings. Marcus exhaled slowly, then looked up at the officers. "Do you have my name?" Linda checked her tablet. "Marcus Carter." Also, Nicole laughed under her breath. "You see? Obvious alias." Marcus tilted his head, studying her. "An alias or a reality you don't want to believe?" The shorter officer shifted, uneasy. "Sir, we're just here to keep the peace." Marcus nodded. "Then start by recognizing who broke it." He bent, picked up the torn boarding pass from the floor, the halves limp and frayed. "This," he said softly, "is your peace." The cabin was silent except for the faint rumble of the engines. Captain Pierce appeared at the cockpit door again. His voice was tight. "We're done here. Remove him." That word, "remove," hit the room like turbulence. Emma's phone caught the moment. "This is harassment," she said, her voice shaking with conviction. "You're dragging a man off a plane for sitting in the seat he paid for." Nicole turned sharply. "Mayim, stay out of this." Emma didn't nod anymore. A man across the aisle, Michael, stood up. "She's right. He hasn't done a thing." Eibling? Nicole's fad cracked. Everyone calmed down. But the calm was gone. The cabin was awake now, breathing as one body. Marcus rose, not fast, not defiant, just deliberate. The movement quieted everyone. He looked at Nicole, then at the captain. "You think silence means weakness?" he said. "It's patience. And patience has an expiration date." Pierce's jaw tightened. "You're threatening my crew?" "No," Marcus said, voice level as a flight announcement. "I'm reminding them who they're flying for." Phones raised higher. The moment had left the cabin. It was already streaming out into the world. Nicole gestured to Linda again. "Do your job." Linda hesitated. Something in Marcus's tone steady, measured, unafraid made the order sound suddenly small. "Sir," she said quietly, "maybe we should step outside, talk privately." Marcus shook his head. "No. Whatever you think this is, it needs to be seen. Justice only works in daylight." One waits for a breath. Even the engines seemed to hold. Then Mia stepped fully into the aisle. "Captain," she said, louder this time. "I heard them laughing about him in the galley. They said he printed his ticket at home?" Nicole's face was drained of color. "You little—" "Say it," Marcus interrupted. "Finish the sentence." But she didn't. Couldn't. The truth was unraveling too fast now. Pierce's radio buzzed a call from ground control. He didn't answer. The officer beside Linda whispered something, but she stayed silent, eyes fixed on Marcus. He stood still, centered, every inch the man they'd refused to see. "You can't delete dignity," he said, "not from a system, not from a seat." And with that, the cabin felt different, no longer a room of travelers, but a courtroom in the sky. By now, first class didn't feel like a luxury cabin anymore. It felt like a storm shelter right before the wind hit. Every person was holding their breath, waiting to see which way the lightning would strike. Nicole's voice cut through the silence. "Captain, remove him now before this gets out of control." Pierce hesitated just long enough for everyone to notice. Security, proceed. Linda shifted her weight, uneasy. Sir, please, stand up. Marcus looked at her badge, then at her face. You think standing will make me smaller? No one answered. Cameras rolled quietly. He picked up his phone from the armrest. The lock screen glowed once. Rachel Harris, incoming call. Marcus swiped and lifted it to his ear. Rachel, he said evenly, they've escalated it. Her voice came crisp through the cabin's hum. Understood. The board is in a standby session. Protocol 6 is authorized. Do you want it live? Marcus' gaze didn't leave Nicole. Yes. Let them hear. Nicole frowned. Who is that? Someone you'll wish you'd spoken to before you tore my ticket. Our rank-end. Passengers stirred. The woman filming in row 3 whispered, he sounds like he owns something. Rachel's voice filled the phone speaker, now audible to those nearby. Mr. Carter, internal log confirms your seat. Transaction ID ending 1024. Priority class upgrade approved under executive account. I've also noted the incident report you mentioned. It's recording? Nicole blinked. Executive account? What are you talking about? Marcus didn't answer her. Continue, he said to Rachel. Yes, sir. Legals reviewing flight crew conduct policy, especially clauses on discriminatory reassignment. The words discriminatory reassignment landed like debris in the aisle. Brian, the younger attendant, looked at Nicole nervously. What is she saying? Nicole shot him a glare, but the tremor in her hand gave her away. Emma's phone panned to Marcus's face. Calm, composed, but the kind of calm that holds an entire company behind it. Sir Linda said again, her voice softer now. Maybe we can step off the plane and resolve this. Marcus turned to her. Do you know what resolve means, officer? Linda blinked. Excuse me? It means to make firm, to settle. I'm already resolved, you're just catching up. The younger officer behind her whispered, maybe we should wait. Nicole exploded. Wait for what? He's lying. Marcus met her eyes. Then prove it. Pull the seating log. She grabbed her tablet and scrolled fast, fingers trembling. The screen flickered blank space where his name should have been. It's gone, she muttered. Emma spoke up. You deleted it earlier. I caught it on video. A ripple went through the cabin voices whispering, disbelief turning into outrage. Pierce's tone cracked enough. Everyone back in your seats. No one moved. A passenger in row 5 said loudly, No, Captain, you back up. You can't erase what we all saw. Nicole looked cornered now, her authority unraveling thread by thread. You don't understand. He's making this up. Marcus finally stood. The motion was quiet, controlled, final. You tore my pass, called me fake, and erased my name from your system. What part of this do you think I need to invent? The words hit like a gavel. Rachel's voice came again, calm and cutting. Mr. Carter, the board has joined the call. Audio is live. Continue at your discretion. Marcus looked around the cabin. You wanted a protocol? He said, eyes still on Nicole. This is it. All right, Perwola Singuerdis. He held the phone at his side and spoke clearly enough for the aisle to carry it. You just told a black CEO he didn't belong in first class. No one moved. Emma lowered her phone slowly. Did he say CEO? Marcus nodded once. I did. The cabin didn't erupt, it inhaled, stunned, as every layer of pretense peeled away. Even the engines outside seemed to quiet, as if the plane itself knew justice had just boarded. Silence fell so hard it seemed to bend the air itself. Even the engines outside sounded distant, like the world was pausing to watch what happened next. Nicole stood frozen in the aisle, tablet still in her hand, her authority flickering like a dying light bulb. CEO? She repeated, almost whispering the word as if it were toxic. Marcus didn't move closer. He didn't have to. 25% shareholder. He said, evenly owner by equity, not invitation. Way. A gasp rolled through the cabin soft, uncertain, spreading like a wave against metal walls. Captain Pierce's face was drained of color. He turned slightly toward Nicole, voice cracking low. Is this true? Nicole stammered. He's lying. No one told us. Rachel's voice cut in through Marcus's phone, steady and professional, projected just enough to carry. Confirmation, Marcus Carter, executive board member, Horizon Airlines, stockholder ID verified. Crew currently logged under active investigation for conduct breach. Nicole's tablet slipped from her hand, clattering onto the floor. The sound was sharp, final. From the back of the cabin, a man muttered, "Oh my God." Another whispered, "She tore up his ticket." Marcus remained still. His calm filled the space like pressure. invisible but undeniable. You were so sure, he said quietly. So sure what I looked like meant I didn't belong. Nicole tried to recover. We were following protocol. He cut her off. And protocol doesn't humiliate people, do. Brian Pale now looked between them. Sir, I didn't mean there. You laughed, Marcus said. You both did. Emma's phone caught every word, her breathing audible over the mic. He's not yelling, she whispered to Michael beside her. He doesn't need to. The officers stood motionless. Linda finally spoke, voice low. Captain, this is above us! Pierce rubbed his temples, realization sinking in. Mr. Carter. I were? Don't, Marcus said. You had your chance to listen when your own staff told you the truth. He glanced toward Mia, who stood rigid at the galley door, trembling but proud. She's the only one who acted like this company meant something. Mia blinked hard, her voice breaking slightly. I just did what was right. And that, Marcus replied, is the only policy I'll ever respect. Rachel's voice came again, precise as a verdict. Mr. Carter, the board has requested a live feed. Do you wish to proceed? Yes, Marcus said. Open it. Cole's face went ashen. Live? You can't. Marcus looked directly at her. Watch me. He turned his phone toward the aisle. The screen glowed, showing a split image. A conference room full of executives and his own reflection framed by the cabin lights. Good afternoon, Marcus began, his voice calm, deliberate. I'm reporting a verified case of racial profiling and misconduct aboard Flight 1623. Evidence includes deleted passenger logs, verbal harassment, and unauthorized ticket destruction. The officers stepped back slightly, uncertain whether they were guarding or witnessing. Nicole whispered to Pierce, say something. But Pierce didn't. His voice was gone, drowned by the weight of consequence. Rachel's tone sharpened. Under company bylaws, authority during an investigation transfers to the shareholder executive. Mr. Carter now has operational command for this flight's staff review. Marcus lowered the phone slowly. His next words came like the calm before thunder. Nicole Harris, Brian Foster, Captain Daniel Pierce. You're all relieved of duty effective immediately. A gasp broke out. Nicole shook her head, disbelief turning to panic. You can't fire me mid-flight. Marcus stepped forward just enough for the light to hit his face. You called me a fraud in a plane I own. Consider this turbulence permanent. No one clapped. No one spoke. The entire cabin just watched as power finally took its rightful seat. For a moment, no one knew what to do with that heavy silence. Even the hum of the engine seemed to hold its breath. Nicole's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Brian stood frozen beside her, gripping the service cart like it might keep him from falling. Captain Pierce's radio crackled faintly, useless now, a symbol of authority stripped mid-air. Marcus didn't move from where he stood. He didn't need to. You're relieved, he repeated, quieter this time. Sit down. Nicole blinked rapidly, eyes darting toward the passengers, toward the officers, searching for a rescue that wasn't coming. This isn't legal, she stammered. You can't just. Rachel's voice on speaker was cold steel, wrapped in calm. Per Article 14B of Horizon's operational charter, executive shareholders may suspend staff in cases of verified misconduct until investigation. Your access IDs are being locked now. And right on cue, Nicole's smartwatch buzzed red, flashing ACC ESS denied. Brian's tablet followed. Pierce's comm panel went dark. A ripple ran through the cabin. A passenger whispered, he really did it. Another murmured, justice, in real time. Marcus exhaled, gaze steady. You wanted control? Now you have stillness. That's what control really feels like. Nicole's voice trembled. You set us up. No, Marcus replied. You revealed yourselves. I just gave you the light. Emma stepped into the aisle now, her camera lowered but still rolling. Sir, she said quietly, the world's already watching. I know Marcus said, and for once I don't have to explain why. Mia approached hesitantly from the galley, clutching her phone. Mr. Carter, should I stop recording the log? Marcus shook his head. No, let it run. History needs receipts. Linda, the lead officer, looked around the cabin, then back at Marcus. What do you want us to do now? Stay, Marcus answered. You were here to keep order. Now help me protect it. Pierce slumped into the jump seat, face pale, the weight of 20 years of command collapsing into shame. Mr. Carter, he said quietly, I didn't know. Marcus looked at him. That's the problem. You never ask who people are until you think they matter. The passengers were silent, all eyes forward. The hierarchy that had ruled this cabin 20 minutes ago had disintegrated, replaced by something raw truth in public view. Nicole backed against the bulkhead, tears threatening but pride holding. "I didn't mean it like that," she whispered. "Yes," Marcus said softly. "You did. You meant every word until it cost you something." Rachel's voice broke in again, crisp as ever. "Mr. Carter, compliance has confirmed video footage from multiple passengers. News outlets are already reaching out. Do you wish to make a statement?" Marcus's gaze shifted toward the cabin window. Clouds drifted by, like pages turning. "No statements," he said. "Just consequences." He turned back toward Nicole, Brian, and Pierce. "When we land, you'll be escorted to an ethics hearing. Until then, stay seated and silent. Consider this the longest flight of your careers. 1, 1, 2. A passenger in row 4 chuckled under his breath, half disbelief, half admiration. Someone else whispered. He didn't even raise his voice. Marcus sat again in 2A, reclaiming his seat as if it had never been taken. The torn boarding pass still lay on the floor near his shoes. He picked it up, folded it neatly, and slipped it into his pocket. Mia exhaled shakily. "Sir, thank you." He looked up at her, expression unreadable. "Don't thank me. Just remember, next time, speak sooner." "One so-lup?" She nodded, eyes wet. Outside the window, the clouds parted just enough for sunlight to break through, washing the cabin in pale gold. Marcus leaned back, eyes half closed. Justice had already taken off, but redemption that would land when the wheels touched ground. The seatbelt sign flicked on, and the soft chime filled the silence like a heartbeat. They were beginning their descent into Los Angeles, but no one moved. No one spoke. The cabin still trembled with the weight of what had just happened, authority reversed, arrogance grounded. Nicole sat 2 rows back now, shoulders drawn tight, her red lipstick smudged where her composure had cracked. Beside her, Brian stared at the floor, the glow of his dead tablet reflecting off his glassy eyes. Captain Pierce hadn't said a word since Marcus relieved him. He just stared ahead at the cockpit door, hollow, as if distance might erase humiliation. Marcus sat where he belonged in 2A. Calm, centered, the torn boarding pass folded neatly between his fingers. His phone rested on the tray, still connected to Rachel. The hum of her typing was faint in the background, like distant rain. "Status?" he asked quietly. Rachel's voice came through, crisp as ever. "The board meeting is still live. Media inquiries are escalating. Every major outlet has requested footage. Legal recommends we issue a statement as soon as you land. For intruder." Marcus's eyes stayed on the window, where the clouds were breaking apart to reveal the city below. "No statement," he said. "Just the video. People don't need my words. They need the truth they saw." Rachel hesitated. "Understood. Would you like me to prepare an internal notice for crew leadership?" "Yes," Marcus said. "Make it short. Title it Flight Itinéraire Sen, Reminder of Who We Are." From behind him, a nervous cough broke the rhythm. It was Nicole. "Mr. Carter." Marcus turned slightly, not enough to soften the edge in his posture. "You can speak." Her voice was small. "I made a mistake. I let assumptions drive my decision. I'm sorry." He studied her for a long moment. "You're not sorry for what you thought," he said finally. "You're sorry for who you said it to." Nicole's lips parted, but no sound followed. Mia walked down the aisle slowly, collecting empty cups. Her hands shook, but she moved with purpose. She stopped beside Marcus. "Mr. Carter, passengers wanted me to tell you something," she said. "They said thank you for not letting it slide." He nodded once. "Tell them, justice doesn't need applause. It just needs witnesses." The engines roared lower, the ground pulling closer. Emma leaned forward from behind her camera. "Sir," she asked softly, "can I share this footage?" Marcus glanced at her phone, the reflection of his face framed by light and consequence. "Share it," he said, "but keep the caption simple. Where seen you? What should I write?" He looked straight ahead. Right. He never raised his voice. Outside, the city stretched beneath them silver freeways, morning haze, sunlight cutting through like verdicts. Captain Pierce finally stood, voice brittle. "Mr. Carter, for what it's worth, I'll accept whatever comes. I failed to lead." Marcus didn't turn. "Leadership isn't lost when you fail," he said. "It's lost when you defend failure." "Carousel," the captain nodded faintly and sat back down, his silence saying more than an apology ever could. Rachel's voice returned over the phone. Landing sequence confirmed. Do you want security to meet you at the gate? No, Marcus said. Let the cameras meet us instead. The plane began to tilt gently downward, the view outside sharpening into detail. The harbor, the coastline, the city waiting. Passengers gripped their armrests, but not from fear of flying. For the first time in that cabin, truth had altitude. And as the runway came into sight, Marcus closed his eyes. Not in relief, but in quiet certainty. Justice hadn't been loud. It had simply chosen the right moment to descend. The wheels touched down with a thunder that shook through the fuselage, a sound too heavy to be ordinary. It wasn't just a landing, it was judgment making contact. Passengers flinched at the impact, then exhaled in a single collective breath, like a courtroom releasing tension after the verdict. Outside, morning sunlight poured across the runway, slicing through the cabin windows in narrow beams. Inside, nobody reached for their bags. They all stayed seated, eyes shifting between Marcus and the disgraced crew who sat a few rows back, pale and silent. Ladies and gentlemen, a disembodied voice came over the intercom. Robotic and off script, welcome to Los Angeles. Please remain seated until. The message cut out mid-sentence. The intercom light flickered red. Rachel's voice came through instead, calm and clear. Flight 1623, you are officially under executive review. Ground security is en route to assist with staff transfer. Nicole's head snapped up. Transfer? Marcus finally turned to face her. You didn't think accountability ended at cruising altitude, did you? She blinked rapidly, the red imprint of her headset still marking her cheek. Please, He raised a hand. Save it for the report. The plane taxied slowly, its shadow gliding over the tarmac like an afterthought. Emma, still filming, whispered to her phone, We just landed! And nobody's standing up. It's like they know this is bigger than a flight. One. Mia walked carefully down the aisle, clipboard in hand, her trainee badge slightly crooked. She stopped beside Marcus. Mr. Carter, I've logged the incident per your request. Passenger witnesses, signed, time-stamped, video linked. He nodded. Good work, Mia. Keep that integrity, never let fear trim it down. Her eyes shone. I won't. As the plane slowed, Captain Pierce leaned toward the intercom panel that no longer obeyed him. He looked broken in a way that uniforms can't hide. Mr. Carter, he said quietly, the company will never recover from this if it leaks. Marcus turned to him. It's not leaking, Captain. It's revealing. From row 4, someone clapped once hesitant, then another joined, and another. Within seconds, the sound filled the cabin. Soft applause, not for spectacle, but for balance being restored. Nicole's eyes filled, tears trapped behind pride. You made your point, she said, voice trembling. Marcus looked at her evenly. No, you made it. I just refused to let it fade. Rachel's voice returned. Professional and absolute. Ground command confirms the arrival gate is secured. Legal representatives standing by. Media presence is moderate. Proceed as planned. Marcus rose. The movement carried weight, not the kind that crushes, but the kind that anchors. Ladies and gentlemen, he said to the passengers, thank you for your patience. You've all been part of something larger than a delay. And one, someone near the back called out, You taught them a lesson. Marcus shook his head. No. I reminded them, there's one already written. He reached for his bag, plain black leather, no logo, no shine. As he stood, Mia whispered, Sir, will you file charges? He glanced toward Nicole, Brian, and Pierce, then out the window at the runway, blazing white in the sun. No, he said. No charges. Standards. One. The cabin door hissed open, and a sharp draft swept in air from the real world. Colder, honest. Through the opening, ground staff waited. Security, company officials, and a small crowd with cameras. Marcus turned once more to the passengers. Remember this, he said. Respect doesn't need a uniform. It needs memory. Then he stepped into the light. Behind him, Nicole lowered her face into her hands, realizing that silence, the very thing she once dismissed, had been the loudest voice in the room. The jet bridge was a tunnel of whispers. Every step Marcus took echoed off the metal walls like punctuation marks in a public statement he hadn't needed to write. The air was cooler here, airport conditioned and sterile, but it carried a pulse of tension, thick and human. At the end of the tunnel, a line of company officials waited, dark suits, neutral faces, earpieces glowing faintly with live feeds. Behind them, cameras glimmered like eyes waiting for truth. Rachel Harris stood among them, tablet in hand, her posture sharp with quiet authority. She met Marcus halfway. Everything's contained, she said. The footage from passengers is synchronized and archived. Legal is in control of narrative framing. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Framing? Rachel's voice softened. Truth still needs delivery, sir. He looked past her toward the open terminal, where travelers craned their necks to see what was unfolding. Phones hovered in midair. Every lens was a mirror, and Marcus had already decided how he wanted to be reflected. Then deliver it raw, he said. No edits, no captions, just what happened. Rachel hesitated, then nodded. Understood. Made her so, and behind them, Nicole, Brian, and Captain Pierce emerged from the plane under escort. Their uniforms looked different now, not symbols of authority, but evidence. The crowd's reaction was quiet, almost reverent. No boos, no cheers, just the sound of a collective realization they had watched prejudice detain itself. A journalist stepped forward. Mr. Carter, can you confirm your ownership with Horizon Airlines? Marcus' gaze cut to her lens. Ownership doesn't matter, he said. Stewardship does. Another voice shouted, Will you fire the entire crew? I already did, Marcus replied calmly. But the real question is, how many more like them are still flying? That line traveled faster than the cameras could focus. Murmurs rippled through the gate area. Travelers stopped mid-stride. Security glanced at one another, unsure if they were witnessing a press event or a cultural audit. Rachel tapped her tablet. The public relations team wants to know if you'll hold a conference. No conference, Marcus said. People don't listen to speeches anymore. They watch consequences. He started walking toward the exit. The rhythm of his shoes, deliberate, steady. Every step was both a headline and a lesson. Nicole called out suddenly, voice cracking, Mr. Carter, please, just a chance to explain. He stopped, turned. The cameras leaned closer. You had one, he said quietly. It was called respect. In Now City, Word, Selford. The gate fell silent again. Even the rolling suitcases seemed to hush. Marcus looked to Rachel. File the internal report under Flight 1623. Include every timestamp, every word. Title? She asked. He thought for a moment. Call it, When Silence Took Command. Rachel smiled faintly, then turned to walk beside him. You know this footage will go viral within the hour. I'm counting on it, Marcus said. Maybe next time, someone will think twice before deciding who belongs. One. They reached the wide glass doors of the terminal. Sunlight spilled across the floor, bright and unfiltered. The reflection of Marcus's calm face merged with the glare, so for a moment he looked less like a man walking and more like a movement taking shape. Emma appeared from the crowd, still holding her phone. Mr. Carter, she said softly, I uploaded it. 500,000 views already. He gave a small nod. Good. Let it fly higher than they ever let me. Our gem still won. As he stepped into the sunlight, reporters shouted questions, passengers raised their phones, and Rachel whispered behind him, Justice has landed. Marcus glanced back once, toward the plane he'd just left behind. No, he said quietly. Justice never needed to land. It was always on board. And with that, he walked forward into the light, into the noise, into a world that had finally seen him for who he was. By sunset, Flight 1623 wasn't just a number, it was a headline. Screens across terminals glowed with Marcus's face, frozen mid-sentence, his words looping under bold letters. You called me a fraud on a plane I own. In coffee shops, lounges, and living rooms, strangers replayed the moment like a public trial. Some watched for justice, some for outrage, all for proof that quiet power still existed. Inside Horizon Airlines headquarters, executives crowded into the glass conference room. Rachel stood at the head. The video paused behind her Marcus, standing calm in seat 2A, the cabin watching. This is our brand now, she said. How we respond defines whether it's a reckoning or a redemption. The CEO, an older man with silver hair and the kind of confidence born from insulation, rubbed his temples. I can't believe he went through with it. Rachel met his eyes. He didn't go through with it. You forced him to. The room went still. She continued. You built a system that rewards optics over ethics. Today, optics lost. Meanwhile, across the city, Marcus sat alone in a quiet hotel suite overlooking the runway. The same runway where his plane had touched down hours earlier. The sky outside was streaked with gold and smoke, the kind of evening that makes the world look both wounded and beautiful. He hadn't eaten. His phone was still buzzing nonstop. News alerts, statements, praise, hate, apologies, offers. He ignored them all. Instead, he watched the replay of his own silence, the moment before he revealed himself. The calm that came not from ego, but exhaustion. 20 years of being mistaken, questioned, measured by rooms that thought equality was good PR. Now those rooms were watching. Rachel's call came through again. It's done, she said. Nicole, Brian, and Pierce have been suspended indefinitely. Internal review opens tomorrow. Marcus nodded slowly. Good. Make sure Mia's testimony is protected. She's getting messages from everywhere, Rachel said. People calling her brave. She says she was just scared and did it anyway. Marcus smiled faintly. That's what courage usually looks like. He stood, crossed to the window. A plane was taking off, its wings catching the last light of the day. He followed it with his eyes until it disappeared into the clouds. Rachel hesitated. You know, you've started something you can't control. So there eighteen bargers? That's the point, Marcus said. Control built the problem. Chaos might fix it. Silence stretched between them, heavy but alive. Finally, she asked, "What are you going to do now?" Marcus turned from the window. "Tomorrow?" He paused. "I'll show up at headquarters. No cameras, no press. Just the board and me. And after that," he looked out again, watching the light fade. "Then I'll fly commercials. Sit wherever they tell me, just to see who's really learned something." Why? Rachel exhaled through a laugh. You never stop testing the system, do you? Someone has to make sure it's still human. Outside, another plane lifted, a flash of metal against the orange sky. It rose steady, confident, free. Marcus's reflection merged with it in the window one man, one movement, both in flight. He whispered to no one in particular, "Justice isn't about grounding people. It's about teaching them how to take off without prejudice." Wangsills. And for the first time all day, he smiled not because he'd won, but because the story no longer belonged to him. It belonged to everyone who had ever been told, "You don't belong here." Tonight, they finally did. The next morning, it broke clean and colorless over Los Angeles. A thin mist hung above the runway like a secret still deciding whether to stay or drift away. Marcus stood at the edge of the Horizon Airlines headquarters balcony, coffee cooling in his hand, the city stretched out below him. He hadn't slept. He didn't need to. Sleep was for people who wanted escape. He wanted clarity. Inside, the boardroom buzzed behind a wall of glass, the same room where he'd first signed the charter that gave him 25% of this company. Back then, they'd celebrated his success as diversity was made visible. Now, they are facing what happens when visibility demands accountability. Rachel appeared in the doorway, tablet in one hand, a look of quiet awe on her face. "It's global now," she said. Hashtag number flight 1623, over 40 million views in 12 hours. Marcus didn't react. And the commentary? Split, of course. Half inspired, half angry. They had to watch it happen to believe it. He smiled faintly. Sounds about right. Rachel stepped closer. "They're waiting for you there. HR, legal, comms. Everyone." Marcus looked out at the rising sun. "They expect a speech." "Yes." He turned, setting the untouched coffee aside. "Then let's give them silence instead." When he walked into the boardroom, conversation stopped, mid-sentence. Every executive straightened, every phone lowered. The footage of his calm face at 30,000 feet glowed on the wall monitor behind him. No one spoke. He took the seat at the center of the long table, the same seat that had been offered to him years ago, with a smile that meant token, not equal. Today, that seat belonged to someone who no longer needed invitation. Rachel sat quietly at his right. Marcus placed the torn boarding pass on the table. It looked small now, harmless even, but everyone in that room knew it wasn't. It was evidence, and it was a prophecy. "This," he said finally, "is what happens when systems forget the people they serve." His voice was low, but carried like wind through an open corridor. You build walls of policy, and you call it procedure. You look at the difference and call it disruption. You mistake silence for acceptance. Until one day, silence answers back. The room stayed still. Only the faint hum of the air conditioner moved. He glanced at the screen, again the frozen frame of Nicole's face. Mid-realization. "This isn't about her," he said. "It's about us, the ones who built a company on the promise of access and then denied access to the people who made it possible." No one dared interrupt. I don't want your apologies, Marcus continued. I want reform, mandatory bias training for every crew, open reporting for passengers, and Mia Ruiz promoted, effective immediately. Rachel tapped her tablet, already executing the order. Finally, he said, leaning back slightly, rename flight 1,623 inches our system. The CEO blinked. Rename? Marcus nodded. From now on, it's Flight Carter. A reminder that dignity doesn't board last. He stood. The sound of his chair sliding back was louder than any applause could have been. Before leaving, he turned to the room one last time. I didn't fight for revenge, he said quietly. I fought to remind us what justice looks like when it's tired of waiting. Then he walked out. No cameras this time, no crowd, just the rhythm of footsteps echoing through a hallway that finally sounded honest. Outside, sunlight broke through the mist, spilling over the tarmac where another plane was preparing for takeoff. Its engines roared a sound not of power, but of promise. Marcus watched it rise until it disappeared into the morning sky. Justice had flown, dignity had landed, and silence, his oldest weapon, had spoken louder than the world ever expected.